Coffin nails aren't props. They're not there to make your spell feel scarier or cooler. They're tools. If you need to shut something down, hold something in place, or push a bit of death and finality into your working, they're the right tool. If you don't need that, use something else. Coffin nail is exactly what it says it is, a nail that's come from a coffin. That might mean one removed before burial or after. In some cases, it just means a nail taken from a board used in a funeral or grave context. But, either way, the name isn't figurative. We're not talking about something that symbolizes death, we're talking about something involved with death. In Hoodoo, that matters. There's a long tradition of using items associated with the dead in spell work, and coffin nails are one of the best known, though not always best understood examples. They're used in spells for cursing, revenge, protection, binding, spirit work, and yes, even the occasional healing, when a curse has to be nailed down and ended. And while they're often treated with a bit too much fanfare by writers looking to scare the audience, the reality is more workaday than you'd think. They're a magical nail. They do a job. In old Magick, it wasn't uncommon for a root worker or witch to collect coffin nails during or shortly after a burial. Sometimes these were paid for. People used to give the gravedigger a little something extra in exchange for access to dirt nails or personal effects. Sometimes they were scavenged from abandoned graveyards or disused coffins. Hides informants even expect you'll steal them from a grave. Nowadays, as it's more common to buy ready-made rather than to make, suppliers offer manufactured coffin nails, which are usually square-cut or blackened nails. Sometimes they're packaged with graveyard dirt or have been ritually smoked. These can work just fine in spells if you treat them accordingly. Most often thought of in conjunction with curses, there are many uses for the humble coffin nail. Shut-down work. Coffin nails are often used to shut something down for good. This might be a person's influence, a situation, a rumor, or a relationship. If someone's meddling in your affairs and you want that to stop, a coffin nail can be used to nail their tongue or nail the door shut behind them. You might drive one through a petition paper or photo, bury it, and let the spirit of the grave keep it handled. Revenge and hex work. This is where most people first hear of coffin nails and laying down a crossing. They're especially good in sour jars, doll babies, or spells meant to cause discomfort, loss, or stagnation. In one method, you write your target's name 9 times on brown paper, cross it with your command, drive the nail through, and bury it in the graveyard with a little dirt from a grave that suits your intent. Exempli gratia, someone who died young for a premature ending, someone wronged in life for a justice spell, etc. Binding, securing work. Because they're nails, they don't just shut, they hold. If you're working to bind someone to a promise or even to a punishment, a coffin nail can fix the condition so it doesn't slip. Some people use them in jar spells or bottles to keep the contents nailed in. They're also used to pin doll babies to boards or crosses for more elaborate control work. Protection work. Yes, coffin nails are used in protection. One needn't cower from evil. It's about having your own heavy artillery. One old-school protection bottle calls for pins, red pepper, sulfur, and a coffin nail soaked in urine. It's buried at the corner of the property to prevent enemies from throwing spells your way. The logic here isn't fluffy. If you bring trouble to my door, I'll send worse back. Another personal favorite is a coffin nail exposed to the rising sun, then polished till it shines. This is carried for protection from all violence. You don't need to be theatrical. If you've got a spell calling for a coffin nail, just use it like any other fixed object, dress it if needed, and place it accordingly. Some traditions have you speak to it, some don't. You can soak them in graveyard dirt, water, oil them, or heat them before use. Depends on what you're trying to do. Don't worry about cleansing before or after, unless you have a reason to. You wouldn't wash your hammer after every job. If a nail's going into something hot and dirty, let it stay dirty. That said, you might want to dispose of it properly after use, especially if it's holding something crossed. If the spell's ongoing, bury it. If it's done, toss it at a crossroads or into running water. Or keep it in a container for long-term work. Sometimes they can even be reused if they had been part of a jar or mojo that can be disassembled. There's also no rule saying a coffin nail can't live on your altar. In fact, I've long kept one there for the purpose of carving and puncturing spiritual candles. Don't treat them like museum pieces or contraband. They've got a job to do, and if you're working in the tradition, you probably already know what that job is, and if you don't, then you probably don't need one just yet. Coffin nails from Hoodoo online. No, they are not cheap. Photo in the blog post of two nails. At left, a genuine 19th century coffin nail found at Fairview Cemetery in Santa Fe, New Mexico. At right, a nail found in Greyfriars Kirkyard in Edinburgh, Scotland, probably 18th and 19th century. While I'm quite certain that the Fairview nail is a genuine coffin nail, it having been found amongst human bones, coffin wood, and other coffin hardware in the graveyard, I am less sure if the Greyfriars nail is actually from a coffin or if it was left over from some long ago construction work done in the area. Could also have been from a wooden cross or wooden grave marker that's since disintegrated. However, human bones are known to work their way up to the surface from the heavy rains in the area, so it's possible that it could really be one that found its way out. Nevertheless, only the Fairview nails are offered on my coffin nails for sale page, since those are the only ones I'm sure about. These kind of flat-sided nails were handmade or partially handmade. Until machine-cut wire nails came out in the 1890s, all nails since ancient times had been of this make. They were flat-sided because a blacksmith had to hand-hammer them to a point, which meant the sides tended to come out flat. Such nails basically fell out of use around the year 1900 since the modern-style wire-cut nails were easier to make and were cheaper to buy. Here's an interesting suggestion for why coffin nails were once so common. They were apparently used for more than just nailing down the lid. They were, in fact, decorations. Behold the blog post, 2 photos of a recreation coffin. This coffin from a museum in York is a replica of a 19th century coffin that was found in a church. It shows how the nails were used as decorations over a cloth cover. Before French polishing was invented, coffins oftentimes were covered in fabric for decoration. The end.